Hello everyone, welcome you all to Believers Eyes Academy. In today's topic of the day discussion, we will be discussing about the India-Bhutan relationships, especially after the recent visit completed by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who had visited the Bhutan for the inauguration of the Punatsangchhu-II Hydropower, and also pretty much aligning or coinciding with the 70th birthday celebrations of the fourth king of Bhutan, which also highlights the deep political and also the cultural ties between the two countries over decades, in fact, centuries. Because if we have to talk about all the neighbors of India, Bhutan is one particular nation who has always been very friendly towards India. And this particular video is not just going to revolve around the Punatsangchhu hydropower, but also we'll be talking about the strategic importance of Bhutan being a friendly nation to India, and also we will discuss about the various trends or the various changes, dynamics which happened in the relationships between both the countries over a period of time. So, even before we talk about the relationships between both the nations, we will first talk about the hydropower project, which is the Punatsangchhu Hydropower Project, which was recently done on the Punatsangchhu River. So, what is this kind of a project? So, basically, it is a run of the river hydropower project, which is located on the right bank of the Punatsangchhu River in the central Bhutan. So, basically, the Punatsangchhu River lies or runs in the very central region of the Bhutan, and this Punatsangchhu River also eventually goes and connects or joins the Brahmaputra river as well, right? So hence this becomes a very important river, and we're talking about the project. You have to keep in mind that it is the run of the river hydropower project, unlike the conventional project where the river is flowing and you construct a dam. So based on the dam construction, and then now based on all the stored water capacity in the dam, you generate electricity, and this is the conventional method. Now, what is with respect to the run of the river hydropower project? If you have to think, it is the modern means of building dams, where basically you're not, let's say if this is the river, you're basically not obstructing the flow of the river, right? Because what happens in the conventional setup, when you obstruct the flow of the river, obviously this is the top view, and now you have the river here. So now if this is the main course of the river, now you have built a dam in between the river. So obviously all these areas, right, the areas next or adjoining to the rivers gets submerged or gets flooded. So this would have been a huge problem to the people, especially if, in order to relocate them, and also a huge problem of lossage of the very productive land. Maybe it could have been used for agriculture, and most importantly, the relocation of people would have been a huge problem. So now, under this run of the river hydropower project, so they are basically not going to build a dam which would flow or restrict the flow of the water, but rather a kind of a small platform would be built, on which the flow of the water would then be permitted. So now here essentially the flow of the water is not obstructed, but probably it is diverted over the small platform on which the pressure is generated, and based on this pressure, once again, the hydroelectricity is generated. And also in some cases they even construct a small diversion area, like a small catchment area where the water can be diverted through a small tunnel, which goes down to a station where turbine is fixed, and here also once again they will generate the hydroelectricity. So basically here the run of the water, the flow of the water is not disturbed, unlike the conventional method. So hence run of the river hydropower projects are one of the most effective and the most efficient hydropower projects, which also gets easy permissions from the government as well, because of the end result of these hydropower projects, which are very eco-friendly and also people-friendly, right? So no chances of inundation, no chances of flooding, no chances of relocation of the people. So that is the biggest advantage. And talking about this particular hydropower project, the total capacity we are talking about is 120 megawatt, and talking about the funding, 30% of the total funding were from the government of India through grants, and the remaining 70% was also given as a loan from India with an annual rate of interest of 10%. So if you can see that the total funding, you can tell it is from government of India itself. So now if you might be wondering what is the benefit of this for the government of India, which we will discuss in the further slides, right? And however, what is the impact of this? So after the inauguration, it has observed that right now Bhutan's power generation capacity has increased by 40 percentage, and this not only will enhance Bhutan's revenue, but also increases the exports, especially the power exports to India, because right now India is investing in Bhutan. In fact, it is spending 100% on this Bhutan's hydropower project. But in return, what is India going to gain is the power that Bhutan is going to sell to India, right? In the India exports, or sorry, India imports the power from Bhutan, and which also is very much required for India's energy sufficiency, and also this is like a great revenue source for the Bhutan as well. So hence it enhances Bhutan's revenue requirements, and also it pretty much is sufficient to even cater to India's power requirements as well. And also, most importantly, this even has strengthened the long-term energy cooperation under the India's neighborhood first policy. Neighborhood first policy simply means how effectively India is making policies or framing policies that that is going to, or that is helping the neighboring countries, right? So that is what it is. And going to the next slide, we will discuss about the India Bhutan relationships. So anyway, talking about the hydropower project, this is more than sufficient. If UPSC has to ask a question, most likely you just have to know the power project and probably which country, and if it was completely funded by India or not, and that's more than sufficient. And a little bit about Punatsangchhu river, because this is also a kind of a tributary of the Brahmaputra as well, right? So that is more than sufficient with respect to the hydropower project. So now coming to the India-Bhutan relationships, let's simply understand this through timeline, because there are a few important events and you have to keep in mind, and it all starts from 1910, the Treaty of Punakha. So this is the treaty which happened between Bhutan and the British India, and this was made to protect Bhutan, right? And also Britain controlled Bhutan's external affairs during this particular time to ensure stability in the Himalayan frontier, and this was the initial foundation which set a proper structured relationship of both these nations going forward. Then second came the Treaty of Peace and Friendship in the year 1949, after the independence of India, and this was the first treaty which was signed between the independent India and Bhutan, and this is when Bhutan was completely recognized as a fully sovereign nation. And however, India stood a stance, or let's say India said that it would guide Bhutan in external affairs, ensuring Bhutan's security and regional volatility. And this established the principle of perpetual peace and friendship. And this is not, you have to keep in mind that doesn't mean that in 1949 this treaty of peace was signed and friendship was signed, doesn't mean these two countries started becoming friends or started having cordial relations only from 1949. Absolutely not, because the biggest or the primary religion of the Bhutan, if you see, the Buddhism has roots in India, right? And we are talking about a relationship which runs for centuries behind, right? So that has been always there, but this gave a very official and a very legal stance for both the countries' relationship. And the next in the 1972 came the Trade, Commerce and Transit Agreement, where here now free trade was established between India and Bhutan. This allowed duty-free transit of Bhutanese goods via India, which pretty much helped Bhutan's economics, because this way Bhutan could now integrate with India economically as well. And in the year 2006, it is the Hydropower Cooperation Agreement, where here it provided a clear framework for India to finance, construct, and purchase power from Bhutan's hydropower project. And this hydropower became the core pillar of the bilateral relations, because here both were in the win-win need. Because even with this, India was getting electricity in return, correct? And also Bhutan was also earning money, because the biggest source of revenue even till date for Bhutan is with respect to the hydropower facilities that they have, and all the hydropower that they export, right? They are making money out of it. So for India, they got the energy sufficiency that they wanted, and Bhutanese, they earned revenue out of the export, especially the power export that they were making. So this directly enabled projects like Tala, Chuka, Mangdichu, Punatsangchhu-I and thus Punatsangchhu-II. And lastly, in 2007, the friendship treaty, which was signed earlier, was revised now to kind of become, or let's say to kind of grant equal partnership status on both the countries. So basically, it removed the 1949 clause, where it clearly stated that India would guide Bhutan in the external affairs, right? So now it removed that particular clause, where India was earlier standing as a guiding light for Bhutan's foreign policy, but right now, after the 2007 treaty, it replaced it with equal partnership based on mutual respect and sovereignty, and this marked Bhutan's democratic transition and India's role as a supportive for partner. So all of these treaties, all these five different treaties, important one is the 1910, going forward 1949, 1972, 2006, and 2007. All these were the stepping stones which has transformed the relationship and the conditions of both these nations from the protectorate style ever since 1909 or 1910 to the present modern day strategic partnership that both the country has. So now, apart from this, why do you think India should actually maintain this friendly relationship with India? Because friendly relationship with Bhutan is because there are other benefits as well, especially the strategic benefit, because of the presence, or let's say because of the place where Bhutan is situated. So Bhutan is sandwiched between China in the north, and we have India in the south, and also this is also protecting the Siliguri corridor, because now if you see, this is your Sikkim region, and then here we have the Nepal, here we have Bhutan, and near to the West Bengal, there's a very small corridor, right? So if this is your Bangladesh, the small corridor, we also call it the chicken neck, the neck that connects the complete northeast India. This is situated alongside the Bhutan in the north and your Bangladesh in the south. And this small stretch of roughly 20-22 kilometers plays a very important role and acts as India's lifeline to the northeast, right? So Bhutan's stability helps safeguard the vulnerable Siliguri corridor, right, which is very important for India to protect its northeast from the Chinese aggression. Probably like now Chinese starts having more influence, or let's say if China influences Bhutan more strategically, or let's say more favorably, and if Bhutan is in favor with China, so probably it would be difficult for India to safeguard this chicken neck and also the northeast as a whole, right? So strategic buffer against China is one important thing, right? And apart from that, it is also protecting the Siliguri corridor as well. And not just that, Bhutan has been India's reliable regional partner, because Bhutan consistently has aligned with India's regional diplomacy. It has maintained close security cooperation and also has resisted external pressures, mostly from China, especially the Doklam standoff, which we have seen. So all of these were pretty much neutralized because Bhutan were having stance which was kindly or mostly inclined towards India. And last but not the least, it is an anchor for India's neighborhood first policy, because India invests in connectivity there, trade, energy, infrastructure to maintain stable Himalayan partnership as well. So Bhutan as a nation is not just friendly for India, but also is proving very strategic, or proving great advantage to India. So that is also very important to keep in mind. So going forward, we will just solve one prelim question and end the video. Before that, it is important to know that this particular inauguration of the Punatsangchhu-II is not just about an energy product, but it is more than an energy product, because this is symbolizing the continuity of the trust between both the nations ever since the very first treaty. And it also talks about the shared developmental goals, where India is fully investing in Bhutan, and the kind of mutual understanding that both the nations have. And also, it talks about the strategic alignment between India and Bhutan, making sure India's sovereignty is also not questioned or soiled, alongside making sure that Bhutan's sovereignty is also respected. So, with history, geography, and mutual interests connecting the two nations, the India Bhutan partnership remains one of the most stable and successful bilateral relations in South Asia. So, that is what is very important to keep in mind. So, even before we end the video, let's solve one prelims question. Consider the following statements about the Punatsangchhu-II Hydropower Project. It is a large storage-based hydropower project developed on the Brahmaputra River. India funds the project through combination of grant and a loan. The project is expected to increase Bhutan's power generation capacity significantly. Which of the statements are correct? So use the comment section, leave your answers below. Anyway, that's all for this particular video. Signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a beautiful day.